and
Oh my god, those were in unison. You guys, your guys' synergy is way too good, and it shows with me not being on the episode last week. You guys have become way too good at friends without me, and I feel like I'm not included, and I don't like it. And you know, off of this, once again, I'm going to do what I always do. This is the intro! Haha! Welcome to the last hit. I wonder if they're going to cut out what I said before.
I really hope they
don't. I hope they don't as well. I hope they show my true jealousy on camera.
You should just every single episode you should just like break down more and more at the start until you're just like a crying mess as you open the show. I don't go into playoffs.
I don't even feel like that's something I need to plan. I feel like it's just slowly happening week by week anyway. And speaking of week by week, today, August 4th, we just had games. LNG just lost to Rare Atom. It was honestly super weird.
Oh my Lord.
I'm not going to come in and blame Panda C. We're going to go back to a discussion we were having 5 minutes ago. That Panda C, in my mind, guys, can do no wrong. He's in an impossible situation. He might be bad. Like, let's just say that. He's not playing well. But Panda C, you get my sympathy. RA, good job. I don't know. Ox, any thoughts?
I feel like, Panda C wasn't even starting for LNG's LDL team. For anyone who's not familiar, he wasn't even like starting for them. He was playing a couple of games for them, and then he gets brought into the big leagues. And it's been rough. Let's be real. Panda C is probably not happy with his performance either, but it's like, it is just being put in the deep end. It's like, you go down to your pool, you're going to have a swim. You're like pretty confident yourself. Michael Phelps pulls up next to you like, okay, well, whatever, bro. Like, yeah, it's a bit rough. But the thing is, I don't think you can put all the blame on Panda C because there is a lot going on with LNG. And oh my god, you know what's the thing? It's like I feel like Tarzan, for a time, was like, even when the rest of the team were underperforming, Tarzan was like, no, he's on point. He's still at that level we expect. It feels like it's just regressed. Like no, I don't even know how to further I could describe it. It just feels like this. Even the way when LNG play, the level of both teams drops. I've said this so many times, but I feel like the level of play is lowest when LNG are playing, and it's like both teams get brought down to that level, and it's just it's kind of amazing in a way. But we just end up with so many fiestas. Like LNG TT was a great example. Today's one against RA. And I really don't know how further to go with this, but I feel like with this loss today, like they have to face Weibo next. The Shy, if they put Panda C in, that is just not cool. The Shy is gonna like absolutely annihilate him. He's gonna break the solo kill record for a series. And realistically, I think this loss to RA might have just taken LNG out of playoffs.
12-14 and like laning being so much more important. I just feel like Panda C against the Shy is just not gonna be a good time at all.
Man, this actually leads into a really interesting discussion because we have LNG now, who only have one series left with Weibo, like sitting on 7 wins. We have Ox's favorite team, Anyone's Legend, sitting on 7 wins. They at least have 3 series left, but it's JDG, it's EDG, it's Top Esports. Like, I don't know. Is this going to be a split where maybe 7 wins gets you in? Is this going to be a split where neither AL or LNG get into playoffs? Like, what is happening? Why are these teams dropping the ball when they shouldn't? Like, AL was on track. They lost to FPX and OMG, their 2 direct competitors. This was supposed to be LNG's ticket in today. They lose to RA. I don't know. This scares me for TT as well, because TT is easy games, and I expect them to lose them now. I don't know. What's happening, guys? Who's going to make it?
I don't know, man. I feel so. Normally, like for example, we had RNG when they dropped that series against WE, like the end of spring. Like I feel like normally it's like the top teams who take the foot off the gas a bit because it's like end of the split, we're locked in the playoffs, whatever. These guys, maybe AL, they were like sitting there up in 4th, like guys, we're a top team. They took their foot off the gas. The loss to OMG and FPX is damning. But I feel like OMG are still in a good spot. I think we went through a graphic today where OMG play BLG and IG. They could definitely beat IG. Could probably beat BLG, honestly. I think they should. LNG that lost to RA puts them in a hole. FPX are in a rough spot because they have to beat Weibo just to make 8 wins. And then TT can make 8 wins by beating Ultra Prime and RA, which they should, right? So I feel like there's a bunch, like I think OMG and TT are going to comfortably make 8 wins. I think FPX, LNG, and AL, those are the question marks. And I feel like between those 3 is like the last 2 spots. BLG is still a possibility, in fairness, but I'm not sure how convinced I am. And honestly, if BLG beat OMG, then suddenly like things like everything gets messy. It's still going to be so messy, but I feel like AL still have a chance as a result. And you know, Lyric, you came in today and you're like, oh, I'm going to bring up AL. You're going to look silly because I always bring up Ultra Prime to him and how delusional his take was. But you know what? I'm doubling down. AL are going to make playoffs, dude. They're going to upset EDG. It's going to happen. Top esports a little bit too hard. JDG is possible, but, you know, I don't really see it. I think JDG will stomp them in the early game. But EDG, dude, especially, like, if you saw that series today against WE, EDG did not look convincing. I think AL can take EDG, and they'll finish the split 8-8. They'll make playoffs, and they'll make a superstar run of Worlds.
Wait. So if you're doubling down, I want to know, because you said it, you.
No, I was memeing about the Worlds thing, but they are going to make playoffs.
You said World Finals before. I want to know if you're going all the way. Come on.
This is the start of the Anyone's Legend. Well, it will be called the Panda Dynasty going on forwards. It'll be the Panda Dynasty that will win the next 17 World Championships, and eventually people will just realize that they can't be stopped. No, okay, I'm even a bit.
You know, I think AL will make playoffs. If they do make the run all the way to World Finals, which again was obviously a meme, I hope they hire you as either a coach or their support or like something next. Put you on their LDL team. Like, for how much you've been repping them, you deserve it.
Bro, I'll be their mascot. Put me in a panda suit, right? I'll do it. Bro, bring me to the World Finals. I'll just be there. I'll just be vibing.
I'm so sad that AL don't have a Twitter for us to actually like ping them right now and be like, get Ox in a panda suit. Get him in there.
Can we just do it anyway? Like, if they do end up making playoffs, can we like stick Ox on the cast and he has to cast in a panda suit? Or is that the bet? Is that if AL don't make playoffs, Ox has to cast one of the games in a panda suit?
wait, no. And that could be the other way. If they do, me and Rob have to find panda suits.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That sounds really good. What's my stakes if they don't make playoffs?
Which feels kind of BM to wear a panda suit without AL in playoffs, but still, I think you do it. If they don't make playoffs, you wear a panda suit.
I mean, look, let's be realistic, okay? Chances are, if AL don't make playoffs, FPX are probably making it in their place, right? I think it's most likely. So maybe I wear like a beard costume.
You're right. You know what? Yeah, we can be flexible. we can see who makes it and figure out what you do based on that. But Rob, we somehow got to find.
I was gonna say, costumes. I feel like we all need to buy costumes before this happens, which means we just all end up with random costumes and no idea if we're ever gonna wear them. But at least we're well prepared for Halloween.
I was just saying, I'm totally down just to own a panda costume for no reason. And you know what? I don't know if I cast LNG at any point for the rest of the split, but I can even have it to just support my boy Panda C and give him some momentum. Give him some love.
We'll bring it in if we end up all together for the finals. We could just get a big group photo of us all in our costumes.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Oh man. And then panda suits, and you can wear them when AL wins Worlds. You know, you can be wearing them. It'd be great. That'd be a great moment.
So the way we got here was Ox saying he still believes AL makes playoffs. Rob, do you still have faith? Do you still believe?
So I'm actually kind of glad. This is going to sound really BM. I'm glad LNG lost today because I really want TT and FPX to make it into playoffs, especially FPX, because I feel like they've had a bit of a resurgence with someone coming in. So this is just making it more likely that FPX are going to make it. And the series on Saturday against Weibo is going to be the really, really interesting one, because if FPX beat Weibo, well, then they just have to play WE. And then they go to 8-8, and they can make it. So I'm going to say FPX are going to make it. I think they could beat Weibo and maybe push themselves up into the playoff contention. I think TT have too easy of a schedule not to make it. Yeah. And then I'm just not sure what way it goes after that, because I still think, like, OMG should make it, right? I actually don't know if they beat BLG. I know Ox said that they did, but I think BLG, as of late, are looking pretty good with everyone coming back. Like, Weiwei has been unreal. I think he's looked spectacular. I think it's working well with Icon. So, and they even just off the back of, who they beat recently? I can't remember now. I'm trying to remember off the back of my head. They had a win against... oh, yeah, they lost 2 out of V5, but it was, like, close enough. So, this is where I'm kind of like, maybe BLG can upset the apple cart a little bit, but I still think OMG should probably make it. Yeah. I'm not I think... God, do I believe in AL? Do I believe in the EMG upset?
You know, Rob, I'm gonna ask you this because I want to hear this from Lyric as well. I want so there's 4 spots left. I want to hear your heart and your mind. What are your 4 in your heart? All right. And what are your 4 in your mind, right?
AL, OMG, TT, FPX. Like, that's who I want to see in, all right?
Respectable. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, like, was it Lyric who asked me recently was like, everyone kind of has their not so great team, I'm gonna say, that they like are all cheering for. So like,
yes, yeah, I remember
my one has become TT a little bit. I'm like all on the TT hype train now, especially with like Yao Yao and Beishwa together. Like this friendship that is formed between these 2 players, I'm like, I need this. This is like what WE was for Munch. This is like my Star Guardians, my friendship and magic combination that I need to see take on the world.
This is like. Yeah, this is like what V5 currently is for Lyric.
This is what I'm just saying.
You know, I do gotta say, I do gotta say for TT, I'm gonna ignore that. The thing I love about TT is if you look at like any of their game wins, they get so happy or so excited about like even the other day, they barely scraped by against LGD, which kind of makes me fearful. Like, hey, if they can almost lose to LGD, like they could lose to upper RA. But even after like a single game win, you could see them like hugging and happy and just so excited to be here. And I agree. To me, they are more of the Star Guardian friendship team than WE.
When Beishwa beat FPX, I have never seen any player leap as high as that man did. Like, I thought he'd broken a chair. I thought he was going to land on someone, break someone's leg. Like, that man was the happiest I've ever seen. Even after game 1 as well, he just walks out of the room like a boss, just like, I did it. We won. Let's go. And like, I'm all for it. It's just great to see. So I'm on board the TT hype train. Yeah, for LNG, I think that obviously it's Doomby, it's Tarzan, they're great players. This team just frustrates me whenever I cast them more than anything else, because I'm like, you have such good talent, and it's been talked about enough in this podcast where it's like, you know, not performing every other day is a different player that's not playing up to the standard that we expected them. So like, I'm kind of just done with LNG. Like, I just don't find them enjoyable anymore, and I kind of hope, honestly, for next year that we see a lot of these players move off onto different teams so we can get them back to the standard that we expect from them. But yeah, I think from that point of view, I'd rather see FPX basically take the slot of LNG, and then we keep everyone else who's already in that. But will I get... So basically what I need to happen is FPX needs to beat Weibo, and I need LNG to lose, and then I'm happy. And that's the gamble that I'm not sure on, if it is going to come true. But look, I'm going to say yes. I think FPX beats Weibo. I'm going to say it.
Okay, so you have AL staying, you have LNG getting out, and FPX going up. I got to say, I think those are pretty respectable, and those were almost going to be the same ones, because, you know, Ox asked for heart versus head. But I realized something. IG still not eliminated. So if it's still where my heart needs to go, they are.
They're on a 3-win streak.
Hey, Mo's got 100 career wins.
Lie.
I love Mo, man. Sitting second most MVPs for IG right now, despite the fact that he's just come in. So, you know, if we're going what my heart wants, IG has to get into the playoff picture. We're taking out LNG. And I gotta say, just to spite Ox, like, I love AL. I really do. I enjoy, I think, watching them more than FPX right now, but I'm putting FPX in over AL just because it would hurt Ox and he'd have to wear that costume. So that's where the heart goes.
So, do you see IG beating RNG? Is that
Well, what's your head then? Because that's your heart. What's your head? Or we just
goodbye, IG. You know, I gotta say though, one thing looking at this to make me realize is that I actually genuinely think 7 wins will be playoffs to split. I think 7 wins will be what the 10th team ends up on. Now that AL, I feel like AL, FPX will probably end on 7 wins. LNG are going to end on 7 wins. TT and OMG probably make it above. So we can have 2 teams kind of sitting on that mark. So it's actually possible for IG because I think RNG are a team that are beatable in the regular season, with teams who shouldn't beat them. So I think IG can beat RNG, and then they've owned
Hey, WE from spring.
So I think it's doable.
They got 2-0'd.
And you know what? I don't know. I can't predict that
I'm glad we're doing that
even
today.
my heart wants
Because Saturday, all of these are just dashed. My hopes of FPX maybe making it could be dashed by Weibo. Your hopes of IG making it could be dashed by RNG. So I'm glad we're doing this today. But Saturday is just gonna be so sad.
Yeah.
Saturday's the day the dreams die, baby.
Good timing.
The day the dreams or it could be the day of upsets, which I remember we had one day of upsets earlier this split on a 3-series day. So you know what? I think it could happen. But I guess to go back to the original kind of premise is it seems like a lot of us think that AL stay in playoffs, which tragic.
I think LNG's loss today has given hope because, like you said, seven wins could be making playoffs. So if AL have some close series, there's potential that AL stay within top 10 on 7 wins. But also, I feel like EDG, I still think they could beat EDG. I still think it's possible. The thing is, if you ask me, right, what is the chance of AL getting upset against one of our top teams? I don't think it's the highest. All right, I don't think it's a high chance. But they have 4 opportunities to get upset.
Do you want to
know? And I'm hoping that they bounce back in form. My heart is AL. It's IG. It's
yes!
TT. And it's OMG because I've loved OMG. I feel like those are the 4 fun teams I'd love to see. And then my brain says AL, OMG, TT, and probably
let's go
FPX.
My real heart is actually that Anyone's Legend beat JDG, they beat EDG, or beat Top Esports as well, and then RNG gets to move into first place in the league, and then RNG actually get first. That's where my heart really is. That's what I'm actually rooting for.
Possible. Dude, you know what would be the most Top Esports thing ever? If Top Esports beat V5 next week, right? And they're going they've gone this super long win streak. They lost the first series of the split against JDG, and then Saturday, the final Saturday of the split, they lose to AL, so AL get in the playoffs. And Top Esports just it'd be such a Top Esports thing to do.
But what a
timeline that would be.
That TS versus V5 matchup, V5 kind of like AL in the sense that they've just been struggling recently out of nowhere. Since they lost to Weibo, they are 2 wins and 3 losses. They've lost to Weibo, they've lost to JDG, and they've lost to OMG. This is so unexpectedly crazy to me, just with how good they looked. Heck, first half of the split, right, we were saying they were just the clear best team right now. Do you guys think this is a good bump in the road so they can learn now, or are we seeing the spring playoffs collapse early? Is V5 doomed? This should have been a team that we 100% saw at Worlds. And now, I see a lot of people not even putting them in their top 4.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the biggest fan of Xiaolongbao. I think he's been kind of a bit messy when he comes into the team. Look, if you look at his stats look absolutely incredible. But then when you look at the teams he's played against, they're all the bottom of the table teams, and then TT from the start of the split when TT sucked. I don't think that he's particularly good at, reading where he should be. I ended up listening to his players way too much, where it's oh, well, maybe you can make a gank here, and he just takes that as definitive, well, I'm going to be in bot lane. And we saw it in the last series where he spent 30 to 45 seconds just sitting in bot lane, getting absolutely nothing achieved, and he loses his entire top side. And it happened in their series before that as well. I can't think off the top of my head. It was against OMG, where
OMG.
Aki, game 1, just completely destroyed him because he just sat, Xiaolongbao just sat in bot lane, gave across his entire top side, and Aki just took over the game from there. So I actually haven't been the biggest fan of the Xiaolongbao replacement. I feel like we're seeing the exact same problem that we saw in RNG, where he ends up kind of giving way too much leniency to the veterans on the team and not actually playing his game or his style, and just ends up falling behind all the time. So I don't know. I feel like that has been a really big disappointment for me.
I actually agree, like, with the sentiment wholeheartedly. I feel like the problem is Karsa has just looked like so bad.
Yeah.
I feel like V5 as a team, like, still actually look better with Karsa. Like their mid game and how they play the map is still there, even if Karsa is kind of running it down. To where with Xiaolongbao, I feel like V5 look a lot more confused. Which I know PP Gods is the main shot call, right? Like, they've said that in interviews before. But again, when you have a player with Karsa's tenure, and I've even heard it from like his past teammates, like back when I was in LMS and like we'd be around Flash Rolls a lot, that he does have a big voice and like knows the game. But I don't know, it's such a tricky situation where you have one player who is like very heavily like underperforming. I think this has been Karsa's worst split by far. But then you have Xiaolongbao, who I agree is like those same issues he had on RNG, where he looks like a very solo queue-esque jungler in terms of like some of the things he does. He kind of just goes off on his own. I think it helps that Rookie plays around him pretty well, but it kind of feels like a no-win situation. I still don't know if I feel like that's their biggest problem. I feel like Rich has looked a bit egregious lately, but I mean, their whole top side, right, between top and then their jungle situation, things are weird.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is, like, I feel like if they're going to be a world contender, they need Karsa back, but they also need him to be playing well, right? But I feel like the loss of the team is heavy. But I completely agree with the Rich concern, because I feel like, I mean, that was the issue against Weibo. But I feel like I feel like Rich did an okay job in spring at kind of holding his own in a lot of scenarios, but kind of flopped a bit in playoffs. But I feel like blood is in the water, and like teams will just targeting heavily, especially teams who can play around their top lanes, get them ahead, and look to snowball. If you'd like take Rich out the game and you have picks like, there's plenty of picks that could just take over the game right now in the top lane, like Gwen, like if you get them far enough ahead, they will just dismantle the opponent. Jax as well. I've seen a lot of Jax and he can just be a menace.
Oh, I kind of thought the point was going to extend. I thought it was taking like a dramatic pause.
Like, I think the problem.
And then I also think
the problem for me is, like, I feel like because the top lane is struggling, right? They want to try and play around bot, but with Xiaolongbao in, the bot lane is struggling because they want to play aggressive, and then they're getting caught out because teams are just playing around bot side. So it feels like the early game is going so drastically out of control that they just don't have anything then when it gets to the mid game. And I'm getting a bit worried. I actually think this might be, to go back to the original question, the slump, right, that we start to see. But I don't understand why it's happening. Like, again, like, Karsa's been a great player for so long. Like, it feels like on a squad like this where you have laners in theory that should be able to play with the support of Karsa. Like, it kind of feels like what we got when Karsa was on top esports, right? 3 lanes that are super strong. They can play very well through them, and Karsa just needs to support them. But with Rich falling behind, and now with the bot lane not being able to play as aggressive as they want, it kind of feels like it's just the Rookie show, and how many fires can Rookie put out? Like, it just, I don't know. It is definitely the slump, and I hope they fix it. Because again, they look so good at the start of the split. It's so confusing as to why, suddenly there's all these issues that are creeping up.
Honestly, wouldn't even surprise me. Wait, never mind the play Ultra Prime. I was going to say if they lose their other series as well, but I don't actually, even with how much they've been struggling out, that they can lose to Ultra Prime. I mean, they did just 2-0 BLG as well, so it's not like it's all doom and gloom. They're losing to everyone, but yeah, I mean, right now, I think if you're just going by current form, they're definitely not in that like 4-team standing of who you're looking at to go to Worlds, which is pretty crazy.
I think when you look at that like BLG series, just on that point real quick, Cox, the whole reason that they won that series against BLG was Rookie. Like, Rookie's decision making in those team fights was absurd. Like, every single thing that he could have done to win those fights, he did. Like, there was one play where he went in, held his Lissandra ultimate for ages, got like a 4 or 5 man Ring of Frost, held an exhaust until the perfect time to keep his back. Like, he played these fights like perfectly, and I think that's the only reason that they're able to win that series. So I think that's where my biggest worry is that yes, BLG on a bit of a resurgence, but I don't know, you should be able to beat BLG pretty handily as V5.
Yeah, it shouldn't rely. It's kind of like you remember when we had summer last year when like there was series that top esports were winning just because Knight was like on another level. You shouldn't need that to win against a team like BLG. I don't know, I feel like one weird thing is like, so you know, we're talking about the top four that were the teams that we think will go to Worlds, the four strongest teams. I feel like V5 are like a question mark now. Like top esports, RNG, JDG are kind of the no-brainers. But like when it comes to that fourth spot,
just say
I feel like if V5 become a big question mark and like they continue to slump, well, but I feel like it's such a toss-up, you know, like I don't feel convinced by EDG. Who even knows with Weibo? Let's be real. I feel like honestly, there's no true way to know. And then we don't even know who's going to be in playoffs like from the other four. So I feel like it's kind of, we could see like a spicy like miracle run, like when LNG last year managed to make up the run all the way and make it a Worlds. We could see something. TT a Worlds maybe. AL, you know, who knows? LGD can still make playoffs technically, so maybe LGD make the run from 16th place to World. Probably not, but you know. Oh, did you see the other day it got posted? I think it was, I'm not sure if it was RA or Ultra Prime, but like, so we said on broadcast that they were out of playoff contention, and then apparently someone worked out that if this exact sequence of events happened, like they planned out every single series outcome, and it's like, oh, like the in terms of the total number of potential outcomes, there was 4 million. This was like this one or something outcome where they would still make playoffs, right? And then like literally it got posted, and then like the series happened like an hour later. I'm like, okay, it's dead. Dream's dead. But it's just like for that 1 hour, I was like, whoa, dude, they could still make no, they could make it. It's really hilarious.
I do gotta say, it's good that we're all talking about this now as well, because LGD play tomorrow. Yeah. And then, I mean, then LGD are like truly probably done so. They do lose their tomorrow series. But my God, we've already killed like 30 minutes to where we're at. All just on like AL V5 top 4. But one, there's okay, Ox, finish it up.
Sorry, just quickly, just really quickly, I found, okay, it was 1 in 4 million for RA. And then it wasn't even a series happened. IG took a game of RA. And they're like, yeah, last hope is gone. Like, that was literally it. And I was just like, yeah, that sounds about right, man.
I actually don't know if you needed to bring in the exact number. I just feel bad now for RA. But
hey, man,
we've had
a good game today.
A big thing happen since last time we had the last hit, which is 12-14. 12-14 came out. A ton of changes once again because the Riot likes to make life difficult for everyone. Dragons getting buffed to make them more enticing. Herald got buffed. We had like potions and runes getting hit. Neela's now enabled, and like sadly we haven't seen her yet in LPL. And yeah, I don't know, just so many changes. We obviously have the Pantheon being played. We've seen him over the past 2 days, kind of a mixed success. And, you know, I just wanted to leave it very general starting in. Ox, you cast it today, so we can start with you. Just overall thoughts on 12-14. You know, do you like it? What changes interest you?
So, I mean, I think the changes are cool, but it's hard to scope out already because we've had, 2 days on it. And ultimately, like, these are still some really important games. So I feel like teams are just like, look, the priority of neutrals has changed, but we haven't seen any, like, massive big curveballs come out. Like, we haven't seen any big meta shifts. We've seen, like, for example, Pantheon. Pantheon's buffed and it's come in, but it hasn't been like a whole... It's not like a role has changed. Like, I thought maybe we saw more like poke-focused bot lanes, like things like Karma Ezreal, MF, things like Caitlyn Lux. Because if you, like, land one skill shot, it's like, okay, lane's over. Like, you land a Mantra Q on Karma, okay, we have to base because it's used a lot of pots. We haven't seen that. And the thing is, I feel like maybe because it's come so late in the split, teams are like, look, we're still focused on just making it in the playoffs. We may not see that because teams aren't willing to like experiment too much at this point. Maybe it doesn't come in at all. Maybe my read was just wrong. But like, I feel like teams haven't had much chance to adjust because we still have important games coming on. This is kind of the thing when we have a big change like that. This like in the middle, so deep in the split, not even the middle, so deep. And it's like, you got to think about the fact that like we have the big objective changes, but like the health potion and the room ones, every champion in the game build like buys health potions or corrupting or refillable. So like it affects every single lane matchup in the entire game to an extent, right? I'm not saying it has like a massive effect, but it's so hard to even read what impacts that's going to have overall. Like, I feel like it's going to take so much time to truly see it pan out. And then the runes change as well, just compound that. I think at least we can comment on the initial objective changes, because I do think there's still more to be seen from them. But like, prior to this, LPL was the fastest paced major region, and it was like 5-6 minutes. Teams would go and focus on Dragon, then they'd go on Herald, then they'd go next Dragon, next Herald. It was like just playing for these neutrals consistently. The Dragons are higher prio now, but we don't see them taken as early because you can't. They're so tanky. If you like teams, not only is it that they're so tanky that you like it takes too long to do them, but also teams won't let you get away with it. Like if you can potentially have 9% armor and MR for the entire game, like hell no, this team is going to let you just take the Dragons. So what normally has, from what I've seen, is like the Dragon, they'll stop you from taking it if you try, but no one really does. First Herald is like the major objective you play for in the early game, like the first one, and then normally Dragon comes after that a little bit later. And then it goes to second Herald. So it's like, we're actually getting Soul probably later than we were before, simply because Dragon's harder to take early. But like, even games we don't have Soul, like the value of individual Dragons feels so much more impactful. So like, if a team can get the hands on them, because like before, like, let's say one team focused Herald, one team focused Dragon, we'd get to a point later in the game where we're fighting for like third, fourth Dragon. And the team who had the Heralds is obviously ahead in gold, so they're stronger. But now you get so much more power from the Dragons. I think there's potentially windows where like it can make up the slack, but even then I think teams are just trying to like have a monopoly. We saw that from EDG today. Like they want both. They want all the Dragons, all the Heralds, and they won't give them up if they can help
like,
it.
I was actually looking at the champions expecting, as Alex was saying, a little bit more pro on these like aggressive bottom sides of the map. We've saw a little bit of Renekton creep into the top side of the map as well, but I expected a much bigger shift into champions that work well within the first 10 minutes of the game, which is why I was kind of like, oh yeah, cool, Renekton kind of fits into that style. And even like I was chatting about it with my brother a little bit, and like he had some really interesting points of like, oh well, like because the Rift Herald's 200 gold, well if you can just win the Rift Herald and you have your AD carry there, does everyone back away from the Rift Herald? So the AD carry just gets the 200 gold and you get the isolated gold, and suddenly your AD carry is a lot stronger. Like there's a bunch of decisions that you can try and influence here, but you, as Ox is saying, you kind of need time to work with that and see. And that's why I was kind of not surprised, but kind of surprised as well to see that the meta is very similar to what it was. Apart from like the Pantheon coming in, we saw like On attempting the Ashe. There's not really any picks that have like surprised me or gone like, oh okay, that's different, or that has been influenced because of this. Like we're still seeing a lot of late game skaters in the bot side of the map. We're not really seeing things that can kind of be massively useful at these early fights if you are fighting early Dragons or you are fighting early Rift Heralds. So I think it's been a bit of an odd one, but I think it's, as Ox says, the fact that you have had so little time to play on this patch and work on this patch, and it's so late in the split, like you've got a week and a half left. Doesn't matter if you don't figure out how to play this exact new style, or is it better off like win the last week and a half because you're more familiar with the way you play, and then you can always come back and look at playoffs and go, right, like okay, now let's get time to adapt. But I think that's going to matter a lot more for like our top 4 teams, because like if you are like V5, JDG, top esports, or RNG, you now have way longer to experiment and mess around in scrims and like figure out what the meta is. You get to look at what new guys are doing when we get into playoffs as well. Like you have way more time to adjust to this patch, and I think that's where we're actually going to see the major difference. Is the deeper we run into playoffs and we get these teams that have had more time to adjust, I think that's when we'll actually see it come to fruition.
Yeah, I think like when I came into this, when I came into like the patch yesterday, it didn't even hit me until maybe into game 1 of like, oh, things are going to be very similar, not only because of like how quickly the patch kind of like came into the LPL, but it's also like easy to forget that unlike like LCS or LEC, I mean, heck, the teams that played today also played like 2 days ago, which means that they just had to scrim on 12-13 and like even their analysts or coaching staffs didn't actually get time to truly invest into 12-14. So that's why I'm even kind of surprised that we're seeing things like the Pantheon so quickly, or the Dragons, because going into yesterday, I was like, I wonder if the tankiness will kind of outweigh the buffs in terms of teams wanting to go for it early. But yesterday, we didn't really see anyone even attempt to start it up for like another team to try to like force him off a dragon. So I think teams kind of coming in with like a pretty nice direction. We've also been seeing less GP. He's one of the champions who I think got hit like pretty significantly. Champions like Gnar, Zeri, Prio not really being affected. But I also was really excited and really hopeful that we would see Neela. And it's like, man, we didn't get her. We haven't even gotten her banned. Like, I don't know. I kind of thought, even just from the passive alone, of like giving more experience. In my mind, in like competitive play, that is just such a broken mechanic that I was like, we are definitely going to see this champion, even ignoring the rest of the kit and like how she functions. But yeah, we're not getting her. Maybe just the early weaknesses of her laning phase and being a melee champion too much to outweigh. I don't know how much you guys have seen Neela, or if either of you have any thoughts on her.
Go on ahead, Ox.
Yeah. You go.
You're both too friendly.
Oh, okay. I feel like a big thing is like the I feel like she's probably not going to be seen in the LPL. Maybe if she's going to show up, I think it'd probably be in another region first off, because I think one of the things is that like in the LPL we heavily prioritize like being aggressive early. I feel like is like and we also aren't that keen on enchanters. Like we do bring them out, but like we want enchanters who are like can also set the pace of the game to an extent. Whereas like in other regions, like in LPL, LCK, one of the highest prior champs is Yumi, right? Would never see that. We sort of see Yumi coming in later. I think the thing with Neela is like the way she works, the fact that she gives healing back to her ally, she works really well with enchanters. Things like Soraka can sync very well. Not the champion I expect to see that much in the LPL. And also the thing with Neela is like the fact she is melee, and with the changes to sustain, you're kind of at the whim of your lane opponent. Like you're really at the whim of your lane opponent. And I just think there's other regions where they don't mind that as much. Like we even had Yasuo Sejuani show up in the LCK the other day, which is a bot lane I absolutely love. But that's a bot lane where you do nothing for 3 levels. Like you're literally AFK for 3 levels. And in the LPL, if that happened, like they'd invade your bot side jungle and steal away 3 camps, kill your jungler twice, dive your mid lane, and probably rotate up to top, dive
all of it in 3 minutes.
And like I just feel like all of it in 3 minutes, right? I just think that like we probably won't see it at first in the LPL. What I expect is that another region who aren't as concerned about it will look to prioritize her. They'll try it, and either she's bad and it won't get played much, or it's good, and then LPL teams will go, hey, it's actually pretty, like, this is broken enough to justify. Because I know when she came out, when she was released, and she was nuts, right? But then they like nerfed her in 7 different ways, and I think she's kind of at the point where it's like, she's just a bit too weak. Even though she's got a lot of broken mechanics in her kit, she's just a bit too weak. I have no doubt that if she doesn't hit right, they'll buff her again, and then she'll like be permabanned at Worlds or something like that. So I'm sure we'll get to see some of that.
Like, I was gonna say, with all the nerfs to healing and sustain the lane, it just feels like a bad time for melee bot lanes. Even when you're paired with an enchanter. And I was curious to see, like, before 12-14 came out, I was like, oh, this would be kind of sick, especially if you can try and play around, like, say you've got a really impactful level 6 ultimate for your support. Well, if you get extra experience, well, now you can probably hit level 6 before you try and go for a Rift Herald fight. And that's where I was like, oh, this is where she could be explosive. Like, having an ultimate that your opponent doesn't have because the enemy support hasn't hit 6 could be really cool. But I just don't feel like she's in a spot where she can be dominant enough with these mechanics to actually push her out into the next level. But if, as Ox says, if they end up buffing her a ton before Worlds, I think that's where it'll be super interesting. And then we'll probably see these kind of wombo combo style compositions that can use the fact she has like Diana ult. You've got an ultimate on your support at level 6. You're playing for these early Rift Heralds and you just try and find these quick skirmishes. I think that'll probably be where she nestles into the meta.
I love...
Dude, Neela Seraphine, I feel like that would be so jacked.
Had a really interesting way of explaining Neela. He says Neela is Jax who has Silas ulted in Orianna, which I don't know why he doesn't just say Jax with an Orianna ultimate, but that is I don't know. I just wanted to give Munch some credit for that very apt point. He also made another good point that if there is any AD carry who we might see play it, that it would be Abel. And I do agree with that. It does feel like Abel might be the one guy. Yeah. And I guess that's the thing that I'm sure we will see it because we have 17 teams. One will pick her and one's going to be like, hey, let's go for this strata or look for this to be a win. So I just hope it's soon because I want to see it. But at the same time, I feel like the Enchanter thing really is the one that probably kills it for LPL. Even if it was just weak in lane, just we can't we just can't do enchanters. Even thinking back to any time Ming has to pick an enchanter, and Ming is phenomenal on it, but LPL teams just can't win. Guys, you know what I'm thinking now, right now, this second, 8:14 a.m. my time, West Coast,
Jeez.
USA. Okay, I'm just kidding. So next week, right, we're gonna have our episode's gonna be right before playoffs. So it feels like a good time now to talk about MVPs because we're at the end of the split. We have a lot of people sitting around 8 and 9 MVPs. A lot of maybe even some unexpected people like Doinby being up there. But I guess, yeah, just to recap the top of the standings, right? 369, Doinby, Kanavi, Knight, Xiaohu all sitting on 9. The Shy, Viper, Shun sitting on 8. Feels like that's probably going to be the pool of who they pull from to pick MVP. And I gotta be honest, even just looking at this list, I don't even know if there's a clear name that jumps out to me. Heck, I'm surprised Tien isn't higher up here because out of people whose names would come to mind, he would be one of them.
Yeah. I think out of those, there's a clear name that jumps into my mind is probably not someone who'll get MVP. And that's probably Doinby. I feel like, he's managed to pick up a lot of those awards. I don't think LNG are really in a good enough spot that he will get it.
I gotta interject. I love how you gotta take every opportunity you find to keep kicking them down more and more.
Dude, yeah, if anyone just doesn't remember Goldberg, who was guesting on the LPL before, and he was like the biggest LNG fan. When they made the Run the Worlds, he was like so hyped on them. I've messaged him back and forth sometimes to split. And I'm like, dude, LNG is so doomed. It's like, nah, dude, you gotta believe. He'll message me like, oh, dude, look, they're looking good. They are not looking good, bro. It's done. The dream is dead, man. The loss against RA was the end. So yeah, go back to the point I was making. I feel like Tien, for me, if I we can talk about like the MVP standings and everything. Like he's a bit low, he's at 7, which puts him tied 3rd. But I really think like he's just been so fantastic at setting the pace of the game for top esports. And I feel like he's a player who's had criticism before for his form, but like he was fantastic in the spring playoffs at getting this team ahead. I feel like the team has fully learned to work with some of the things he does, which But I think they've been working very effectively, and I think Tien is honestly probably my vote. But I feel like it's still so hard. I feel like there's so many players where if they chose them, I'd go like, yeah, that checks. For me,
it is another jungler. I think it's Kanavi. I think Kanavi has been absolutely insane for JDG this split. Like Lyric even said on the cast the other day, like the strongest mid jungle that we have in the LPL right now is JDG's mid jungle, and I think the team definitely feels like if Kanavi can get these early leads, they're just going to snowball out of control and they take over the game, right? That's how the JDG game plan has worked. It's been feeding him all the or kind of helping him get a lot of the resources. But I also think whenever we see like the series against V5, where it was like really to the wire, it was Kanavi as well making a ton of these engages, like finding the picks again. And I think this is where, for me, it's a big difference maker. I think if like you take Kanavi out of JDG, I think that team just falls apart. Like, I still think 369 is having a great split, but I don't think 369 is going to be a big carry. Yagao doesn't have the same synergy.
Yeah.
Hope and Missing, like, Hope's just the late game role player, right? And Missing hasn't, like, popped the hell off. Like, there's no one on this team that I think fills or steps up to the mark if you substitute out Kanavi. So I think that's where it's going to be the difference maker for myself, is just how impactful and important Kanavi is to that team. I mean, you can still say the same with like Knight, Say, or Xiaohu, right? But I don't know. I think we're just glad to see JDG back looking as strong as they are. So maybe that's why, like, old nostalgia from 2020. But especially when it has been so bad for so long, to see them coming back is just so good to see.
Rob, I gotta say, when you were talking, Ox had a look on his face. he had quite a look.
I was gonna say, I feel like JDG are like IG if IG were good. Like, yeah. I feel like without Shun, IG is nothing, and without JDG, like, they're still good players. They're actually team, good, right? But I feel like,
are they the best team? Yeah.
They are not the same.
I was gonna say,
they're not the
even
same.
For me coming in, kind of looking at the list, the 3 names for me would be Tien, even though he's not up there right now. 369 Kanavi. Then quickly in my mind, it's like, okay, even if 369 has been like an Omega Chad this split and had amazing plays, Kanavi's definitely the star.
Yeah.
I feel like Kanavi has had like certain bad games that are just so visible in my mind, like some of his earlier Vi games that are worse than Tien's. But even going with a similar logic to Rob of not like if you take who out, what happens? I feel like if you put Kanavi and Tien like in other teams across the board, that Kanavi, I just have more faith in like what Kanavi brings than like if Tien could have a bad like split or splits like we'd see on FPX, right? And even my one big worry for Kanavi before would have been like versatility. He farms, he carries, he does this, but this split he's just been playing aggressive, ganking, playing for his lanes. Even yesterday, the Shy said, like, Kanavi's been giving up a lot of his jungle camps to play for lanes. Like, I need to play safe when, we know if he's around topside. So I definitely feel like I'd lean that way right now. But heck, with TES still having to play V5, like, I don't know. This is I think this MVP and even just our like top 3 all-star teams in general, I think are going to be really interesting with the fact of how many top performers I feel like we have this split across each role.
Yeah, I think it's
I feel like it's stacked. That's the only way I can say it. I feel like there's so many like really strong performers, which I feel like that's why it's made it so hard to call, like with regards to like who's the MVP or who's going to make the worlds or all these things. And I feel like there's even a lot of players who are like on teams where the team may not be doing good, but they're still performing well.
Yeah.
I feel like Scout and Viper, I mean, the exception is Viper had a really bad series today, but I think for the most part, Scout and Viper have actually been really like individually strong, which is kind of why it's amazing why EDG have still looked rough despite that. There's been games where both of them just completely 1v9'd it to like a ridiculous degree. And yeah, I feel like it's nice as well. We have such a mix of like players, like the fact we even have IG like with Shun like tied second for MVP votes.
I also just want to say it's hilarious to me that Rookie like missed half the split and is one MVP away from being the most MVPs on V5. Like Photic is at 7, Rookie has 6. Like he is so close to taking over.
Yeah, that is actually pretty tragic when you think about it. Rookie. Missed half the split, is 3 MVPs away from like being tied 1. But I guess this goes like for those people at the top, goes to something Ox was saying before we came on, right? That like teams are sharing MVP votes because these teams have such stacked players. I mean, 369 Kanavi on the same team are tied. Tien only 2 under Knight. Like, I don't know. I feel like every split in the past, I felt like there was typically a role that we had that was weak, that you can't just look at LPLs being stacked across all 5 lanes. I feel like it's typically been AD carry. But coming into this year, it just feels like I look at every position and 5, 6 names come to mind about who it could be. But yeah.
Can I hear something crazy?
Yeah.
Gala has 1 MVP.
Gala has more pentakills that split than MVPs.
Like,
no way.
How mind-blowing is that?
No way.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I mean, maybe done it a little bit dirty there, but I think that's kind of just indicative of it, because I think everyone can think back to how Gala's played this split and be like, that is crazy that he's that low.
Ming has 5. Supports aren't supposed to get MVPs. I thought that's not allowed.
Dude, Gala got a pentakill and Ming got MVP.
Deserved. Like,
I'm not even kidding.
It's for all the years and splits of robbery that we had to witness. And I guess by years and split, we mean like 1 year. But so many MVPs, man. Robbed Ming. Oh my God, Rob, I remember all the times we felt so done dirty for Ming. For Ming.
Yeah. But I also want to like just steer the conversation a little bit now that we're talking about RNG for Xiaohu as well. Because if we're going off of like people who have a massive impact, like Xiaohu for RNG again is right up there in that conversation. Because I think Wei looks 10 times worse if Xiaohu isn't his mid laner. I think the Breathe hasn't had a mixed bag of a split. And I feel like Xiaohu not being able to set up fights and engages, even like his Talia finding like certain picks on, I can't remember which team it was, where they're like literally sieging up the base, and Xiaohu's like 0-4 and Talia has like 3 seismic shoves that literally kill the push. It was EDG, I think. Yeah, EDG. That game 3 against EDG where Xiaohu straight up won that game from a 0-4 Talia point, which was insane. Like, I think Xiaohu's definitely someone where I would also look at and go, yeah, this is a guy that deserves that MVP. because it just feels like, again, if RNG don't have him, I think they look so much worse than they do right now.
I gotta say though, I feel like if I was making like an MVP award just for the LPL holistically, not like a split or a season or anything, in my mind, Xiaohu wins that, no doubt. Like, just thinking of what he does for his team and then being able to play mid and top, like, in my mind, there's no discussion. He's like the most valuable and most flexible, important player in the LPL. I feel like since it's a split award, though, I feel like that's where he definitely loses out to Kanavi and Tien. But I also think it's just fair to give him that shout, right, of how much Xiaohu has had to do on this squad. And it feels like this is a really nice tangent into our last topic, because since next week our episode's going to lead into playoffs, so we'll probably end up doing like a bit of a playoff preview. This is the time where I want the predictions. I want our names out there in the written in the textbooks of who we predicted going into the split. And RNG kind of being a name that is up there. I feel like one of you's predicting RNG, if not both. Am I right? Any RNGers?
I'm going to take RNG just because I know you guys are going to go top esports anyway. So I'll take this side so you guys can have your top esports.
Whoa. I'm just saying we might all have different sides coming into the day. But Rob, why RNG? What gives you those special tinglies?
Yeah. So I actually don't think RNG win. I actually don't.
What?
Yeah. I think the top play, I think Breathe has been a little bit underwhelming. I think the
betrayal of a century. What is going on?
Look, I think there's still.
Oh my god!
I think,
dude, the pain on Twitter, your face saying this. I feel for you.
Yeah,
it looks like it hurts.
Here, look. You know what? I'm just gonna. I got my little badge here. It's going down. Get it out of here. It's out of the way. But I think, I don't know. It's super hard to try and. I think top esports looks so unbelievably strong. It's hard to just kind of go against them. Like the smile on Ox's face. But that's the thing. It's so hard to doubt them. Like, the one loss that they have all split long is against JDG. And that was at the start of the split when they're still trying to figure out what they were trying to achieve. I think they've looked only like they've gone from strength to strength. I think Wayward for a rookie is phenomenal. The Tien and Knight look spectacular. The bot lane, brilliant. Like, it's kind of like started to slow down. Like, there's nothing here. And I think the fact that, like, again, moving on to this new patch where laning becomes even more important, I think that's what that's what makes the difference for me here. Is like, top esports are probably the most dominant laners that we have. They're incredibly good at snowballing the game. And I like, even when we get to international as well, I think the fact that I don't think teams are going to be ready for top esports. I don't think they're going to be ready for the pace at which they play the game. Like, I honestly think this could be the summer of top esports, like, just across the board.
Oh my god. Lyric, you take. I got another ad. He said everything I wanted to say. Oh,
wait.
It's beautiful.
Fantastic. I was going to say. I was going to tell you. Add something about Wayward. I know you're dying to do it,
dude. I mean, I feel like I completely match everything said. I feel like that first series against JDG, they got all their inting out the way in that first series because that was a rough one. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that the meta is going to suit them well, because I think it should, based on, the fact that laning's more important. I think that the issues they had against RNG, where like they completely fell apart in the mid game in spring, aren't really there anymore. I think their mid game has improved massively, and they're still fantastic in the early game. I feel like there's 3 lanes you can carry through. I mean, you can even have Tien carry through the jungle. I just think this team's fantastic. The question isn't whether they're going to win LPL, it's whether they're going to win Worlds.
The only caveat I will add to that is,
there we go.
Tien in playoffs sometimes scares me, where he can just start to fall apart, where he does struggle with the pressure from it. But I do think, at least looking at it, hang on. That Alex, I think,
dude.
hang on. But I do think now that he's on top esports rather than FPX, it definitely feels like the camaraderie and the fact that, like, they're more, I don't know, they definitely feel like they're better adjusted to actually, like, having conversations, putting less pressure on him.
He's touching his cheeks.
What? Oh, yeah. But I think Tien has looked a lot better, a lot smoother, and it's kind of been a lot stronger. but I still hold the question about what happens when we get to playoffs. I think he's better adjusted on top esports, but I've still seen him so many times on FPX. Playoffs comes around and TN just isn't there anymore.
Rob, also, we're offline now. Are they gonna fall apart offline now?
Oh boy!
I'm nervous, man. Because dude, if I swear to God, if they just we go offline, we go to playoffs, and they fall apart,
see. This is the thing.
You won't see me anymore in the last day. You won't see. I'll just leave. Whatever, man.
Not domestically, but when he gets to international as well, where the first time he went to Worlds, I was like, oh, where's Knight? And then we got to see him a little bit at Mid-Season Cup, but that was 2020, and again, that was online. And this is where I'm just oh, I don't know. This is yeah.
I will chime in now. I will give my take because I was so excited. I thought we were going to have 3 different takes, which is why when I thought about this, I'm like, great. Rob's got RNG, Ox has got top esports, and me, you know what? I'm coming in for JDG. And I do got to say, I honestly think there's an argument for any of these 3 teams.
Yeah.
And I feel like for the fact that RNG have shown they can make these crazy comebacks and do on playoffs, I feel like maybe that should give them the edge over the other 2. But I feel like for JDG, even though again they've had a lot of those egregious games, I feel like even in their losses recently, they've looked better. Heck, that RNG game 3 feels like a game JDG should have won. Though I guess technically JDG probably should have lost game 1 in that series. But
I think even Chow, who said that in his interview, said those exact words.
But I actually feel like JDG are the team out of these 3 that are the most versatile in terms of who can carry. And I don't mean it in a way to where obviously TS have Jackie of Knight and Wayward, but I feel like a brunt of it's still on Knight, and then secondary would be Jackie Love and Wayward. Wayward's good early, but I don't actually feel like Wayward's really ever in a position to carry games. So for JDG, I look at it's 369 has full on taken over games. Has one of the highest damage percent, solo kills, all that stuff. Yagao, I'm so mind blown by Yagao this split.
I was gonna say,
he's not even just being a good role player or good for him. He is actually carrying games. The series yesterday against Weibo, I don't think he got MVP either time, or maybe he got MVP one of them, but both games, it felt like he was the difference maker, and he gapped Angel.
He got MVP Angel in the second game.
Hard
in the second one.
In that series. And then Hope and Missing, I think Jackie Love and Mark are no doubt better laners, but I actually have a lot more confidence in Hope and Missing this split than I'd say. I don't want to say over either bot lane, because Gala and Ming, I think, are the best bot lane in LPL, but they have those happy games. I feel like Hope and Missing are actually the one part of JDG that kind of always deliver. You can see Yagao or 369 mess up in lane, but you never see Hope and Missing. So I feel like I love how this team is just built together. I love how anyone could carry. I think they have great team fighting, and I think in a best of 5, they are not going to do it. They are not going to be sitting in front of Baron and go, hey, this is a 2v5. Do we take this and go, yes? They're not. They're going to temper it back, and they're going to beat top esports again.
I love the fact that if it is JDG versus top, it is just 2020. And that was such a banger year. But I want to bring it back because I want to give Yagao a little bit more, because I feel like he doesn't get the praise that he deserves on that squad. And I actually did a breakdown of it from their series against V5. Because if people don't remember, game 1 against V5, it went completely awry. Kanavi got invaded. He was massively behind. V5 should have been able to take over that game. And a lot of the reason they didn't was because of Yagao. And he was so smart in the way he played the game. So he got an early blue buff. And I've never seen someone adjust on the fly as quickly and as effectively as he did. Because he was okay, I now have blue buff. I need to become the jungler. I need to be the one that's supporting all my laners, making sure that they're all going to be fine. And every single time Carcer went to try and make a play, Yagao was already there to stop him. Carcer was okay, I can go and clear towards top side. I can go and gank top because top lane's overextended. I've got a level lead. I've got a reset advantage over the Kanavi. I'm going to be totally fine. And Yagao preemptively goes into Carcer's jungle, forces him away from top side. And then again, they're setting up for dragons. Yagao gets a quick pick onto Rookie. Doesn't kill Rookie, but takes like 2/3 of his health away, and suddenly V5 can't contest. And then JDG slowly but surely buy time till they can hit the late game and bring it back. Like, it's not really... Because you look at his stats, and Yagao's stats are not good. Like, he's like way below average in most of the stuff. I think it's like 23% of the team's damage. Like, it's nothing to write home about. But the way he understands what is needed from him in the game, how he sets up his lanes, is so incredibly smart, and it's so good to see him stepping up, because when we look back at like 2020, you'd never go, oh yeah, well, Yagao could be a carry, right? You're like, oh, I mean, if he gets Zoe, maybe he has a pop-off game, but it feels like now we're actually seeing him play incredibly smart on the map and then be able to carry from certain situations as well, which is just so good to see.
Talking about like JDG stats, I was going through them, and there's one that surprised me so much. JDG have the highest win rate when behind to 15 minutes in the LPL. They're at 50%. Everyone else, 20, 30, maybe even less. Like, you just think about JDG. Like, whenever I think about JDG's losses, I don't think like JDG making comebacks.
That just means they've lost a ton of series where they're ahead of 15. That's all that stat says.
No. JDG have a higher win rate at 15 than top esports and RNG.
Okay, I take it back. Yeah,
they have higher in both categories.
Yeah, I feel like it might just suffer from small sample size, for them being behind. I feel like that might be it. I can't remember what it was, but I remember we did some assets like maybe like a couple of weeks ago, and I can't remember who I think it was against V5, and like it was like both teams at the time had 100% like win rate with a goal lead at 15. And it got broken in that series because I think V5 had a lead at 15, and then JDG came back. So both games, I think V5 had a lead at 15, and JDG managed to call it back. One of the games, it was like barely a lead. It was like 400 goals or something.
Yeah,
the other game was a significant
I think V5 were like stomping them, and game 2 was the game where it seemed like after game 1 that they were like, well, mental GG and kind of move on. But man, I just gotta say, I'm still just so mind blown that Rob didn't go for RNG. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
It's... Wait. I could do this. I got a way to do this.
Okay.
Tell me how RNG could win. Bam, Rob, sell RNG.
So I think the caveat for RNG is like, if they can have like pushing lanes for Xiaohu and you actually start to see like the early skirmishes down towards bot side, I think it could be a lot stronger. But like, I think the biggest problem for RNG is like, if we end up shifting into meta that is a little bit more lane dominant, like I don't see Gal and Ming, I think, are a very, very solid bot lane, but I don't see them as like a dominant bot lane. Whereas like, okay, if I need someone to hard carry from the bot lane from the laning phase, I don't see Gal and Ming kind of stepping up to fulfill that. And then when I start to look at like the champions that Xiaohu feels like he needs to play on this patch because he needs to play the engage tool, there's like Ari, Talia, Lissandra. Like, it's not that I don't think Xiaohu doesn't have a champion pool. Like, he can play basically anything. But the problem that I'm seeing is that this is what RNG need him to play. Like, when he's on Azir, he had like a 30% win rate on Corki, I think. Or sorry, on Azir, wasn't it? Like, hang on, let me just double check. Because you look at like his win rates on... Yeah, the Azir, he's got a 33% win rate on. His Corki's got a 33% win rate on. And you're like, oh, well, like, these are, in theory... If Xiaohu wants to carry picks that he can carry on, but clearly that doesn't work for RNG. And then you look at like Lissandra, 88%, Talia, 86% win rate, and the Ari, he's won like 2/3 of his games on. Like, these are the picks that actually he needs to be able to play on, and I don't know, as this split goes on, if that is just going to be able to work anymore. And even like you saw it when we got to MSI, right? It felt like a lot of the meta had kind of worked out for him because Lissandra came into the meta. The Ari was still really good, so he could play that style. He was still like one-picking Galio and these kind of things. It feels like RNG have a very set style. And if the meta is shifting away from that, that's where I think RNG are going to struggle, which is why I can't like fully get behind him, and why I think like top esports will start to rise up. JDG with the more aggressive playstyle will start to rise up. Like, even though I think RNG are like first for kills at 15, because like they they actually like, despite being like slow, they actually have a bunch of kills at 15. But it is very much kind of like, hey, we win a skirmish or we win a team fight, rather than like, hey, we individually outplay you or 2v2 outplay you.
Lane dominance.
Yeah, that's where I can't fully get behind RNG right now. I just think the meta is shifting away from what they want to do.
Yeah, I think this is what was my main concern. I've said about RNG a lot. Was like if we shifted to a meta where it was like control mage is mid. Like I know we had the bit of that at the start of the split. Like let's say we had like I don't know Corki, Azir, Victor meta, and then support meta was like actual enchanter meta. Like you have to play enchanters. RNG would be so doomed. And I feel like, you know, as you said about Xiaohu, it's the same with Ming. It's not that these players can't play these champions. They're actually fantastic on them. I feel like RNG have a very set style that they are very, very good at. And it's like, if the meta hits that style, they can win like MSI, right? If the meta is a little bit off from that style, they can still make that style work. But if the meta is way off from that style, that's where I can really see them suffer. I know we had MSI where I feel like the meta was really good for them because, like, as you said, the mid picks for Xiaohu, but also like Kai'Sa came in the meta for Gala, you know, this teamfight AD carry, but a lot of the mobility AD carries you could lean on. I think the meta is still passable for them now, but that's the thing, like, who's to know how it's going to develop? As you said, the lane-focused play doesn't necessarily suit them, but maybe they can still make it work, but, like, we don't know where it's going to turn. I think, it's like Jordan was saying, he thinks JDG can be very flexible as a team.
Even when you
I'm
look
not
at,
sure
like,
RNG
Gala's
can be.
champion pool, Gala is still just playing Jinx and Aphelios. Like, those are his two most played. Like, when you look at how much the meta has kind of shifted from Spring to still have those as your highest is kind of insane. Like, he doesn't have the Lucians and he has some Kalista games not in there, but it still feels like RNG are playing that one style, right, that we saw in Spring, and they're trying to brute force and make it work. And I think if you end up seeing, like, as Ox was kind of predicting earlier on, that, like, Caitlyn looks and, you know, aggressive kind of poking bot lanes come into the meta, well then, how does that work then for RNG? Because suddenly they don't have their late game scaler in Gala that they've been relying on for team fights, and they may not have control over the mid lane in the matter that they were hoping as well. Even when you see like Xiaohu on Sylas, I think again that is another problem that we start to see, because suddenly they don't have a mid lane that can kind of support the jungle, support the bot lane. So I think there's a lot of stuff that's just shifting away from the way RNG want to play the game, and I think it's going to cause major issues as we get into playoffs.
I do gotta say, I think from like a viewer perspective, it could sound like we're being very harsh on RNG, but there's one thing I gravitate about what Ox was saying, and then you kind of built upon, Rob, was that like when a meta hits RNG, they're winning the international. When a meta doesn't hit RNG, oh my God, they're a top 3 team in the LPL. They're so bad. Like, look at Worlds last year. Look at potentially Worlds this year. Obviously, they can still win the split, but yeah. I mean, point is, it sounds bad in the context of at least how we see top 3 panning out.
Even on that, like, this is a team that clearly has massively changed with their play style over the course, like, even the last year, right? You look at Xiaohu top, how they played there, now what they're trying to achieve now. Like, this is a team that is quite versatile. Like, they can change up their style. I just think it's a lot to ask for, because these changes are so insane that we're seeing consistently, to see them very quickly transform over to a different style. And we even saw, you know, at the start of Spring 20, just as they came back from Worlds, like the start of Spring 2022, how long it kind of took RNG to figure out what they were trying to do. I think that's where I'm going to see issues, is that they just don't have enough time to figure out what that new style is and then how to facilitate that.
And I think it's kind of a suffering from MSI. The fact that obviously you have less time off with MSI, and then we also had these massive patches, durability patch, and then a bunch of patches to make up for that. And then we've just had this massive patch with the dragons and the potions and everything. Like, it's kind of like the worst case scenario. If you're a team who like can change style, but it takes time to work into that, RNG has had the worst scenario for that as a result of the circumstances.
Well, RNG, you can prove us wrong. You could win the split. You could go get 2 internationals and get 4 titles in a year. But sadly for us, we've actually gone over our time. And, you know, I kind of wanted to give final thoughts before, but the topic I want to give final thoughts about, we probably shouldn't let Ox talk about. LNG, I'm terribly sorry. Ox actually loves you. Last hit. That was it, gentlemen. Thanks for joining me. We'll be back next week with a super awesome secret playoff episode. And have a good 9 a.m.